Outside, the rain came down in sheets, turning the road into a river of mud. The wipers of Noah Palmer's old truck squeaked across the windshield, barely keeping up. He gripped the steering wheel tightly, his eyes locked on the fading lines of the road. In the passenger seat, his daughter Lily slept soundly, her sketchbook clutched to her chest like it was something sacred. It had been 5 years since the day Noah was left at the altar. Back then, he was different, softer, hopeful, the kind of man who believed love could heal anything. He'd stood there, waiting in a suit that didn't quite fit, surrounded by flowers and guests and silence. She never walked through the door. She'd left him for another man. And when she vanished, she took with her every last piece of the man he used to be. Since then, Noah had closed himself off from the world. No more risks. No more dreams. Only Lily remained his daughter from a relationship long before the wedding that never happened. She was the only reason he kept going, the anchor in the storm. And yet, something about that night made him slow down. There, by the side of the flooded road, stood a woman alone, soaked to the bone, a duffel bag slumped beside her. The military uniform clung to her, her head low, shoulders stiff. She didn't look fragile. She looked like someone who had survived things she didn't talk about. Noah pulled over and stepped into the rain. "You okay?" he called, raising his voice over the storm. She turned, eyes sharp but tired. Her voice was steady, but barely. Just waiting on the next bus. He scanned the horizon. Nothing but rain and shadows. "There's nothing coming through this mess tonight," he said. "My place is close. It's warm, safe, and my daughter's in the truck, if that helps." She hesitated, long enough to let him know she wasn't the trusting type. "Just one night," she finally said, lifting the duffel and following him. The house was nothing special, 2 bedrooms, creaking floors, a stubborn fireplace. But it was all Noah had, and somehow it still felt like home. Lily stirred when they stepped inside, blinking sleep from her eyes as she took in the stranger. Noah took the woman's soaked jacket, water dripping onto the floor, and pointed toward the hall. "Bathroom's down there. Towels in the closet. There's chili on the stove, if you're hungry." She gave a tiny nod. "Thanks." Later, wrapped in one of his flannel shirts, she sat on the couch with a steaming mug in hand. Her hair was damp, but her posture was still tight, like she wasn't sure how to let herself relax. "Staff Sergeant Riley West," she said, finally. Noah nodded. "Noah Palmer. That's Lily." The little girl gave a sleepy wave. Riley stared into the fire. "I didn't mean to end up here. I just needed to get away. But I guess the storm had other plans." "Sometimes the storm puts you exactly where you need to be," Noah said. Silence settled between them, not awkward, but heavy. It was the kind of silence that only exists between people who recognize something in each other. Pain, loss, the quiet need for something more. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, 2 broken souls and 1 curious child sat in borrowed warmth. And none of them knew that this night would be the start of something neither of them believed they still deserved. The morning came, heavy with clouds but free of rain. The ground was soaked, the trees dripping, and the scent of wet earth hung thick in the air. Noah Palmer woke early, like he always did, and stood for a moment staring at the closed door of the guest room, where the soldier still slept. Riley West. He repeated her name in his mind, trying to pin something familiar to it. But there was nothing familiar about her, and maybe that was why she stayed on his mind. He made coffee in silence. 2 mugs. Black, no sugar. Lily was still asleep, which was rare. Maybe the storm had tired even her dreams. Moments later, Riley appeared, quiet as a shadow in the hallway. Her face was freshly washed, hair still damp, dressed in borrowed clothes that hung just a bit loose on her frame. The uniform was gone, but the weight wasn't. The set of her shoulders, the constant alertness in her eyes, it hadn't gone anywhere. Coffee? Noah asked, sliding a mug toward her. She nodded once, sat across from him, and wrapped her hands around the mug like it was the first warm thing she'd touched in weeks. Silence. It wasn't the silence of strangers anymore. It was the silence of survivors, two people who knew that sometimes words made things worse. You heading out today? Noah asked without looking directly at her. Riley stirred her coffee slowly. No destination. Just moving. He nodded. Running? The question lingered between them. She looked up, not angry, just exhausted. Do you think everyone who shows up quiet in the middle of a storm is running from something? No, but I am. No excuses, no details. Just the truth. Noah didn't press. He offered what little he could space. You can stay another day. If you want, he said. Roads are a mess. No Biss'll be coming through. She studied him, wary. You always invite strangers into your house? No, he said simply. But you don't seem like a stranger. For a split second, she smiled. Not big, not bright, but it was real. And it was enough for Lily, who had quietly entered the kitchen, to say what only children dare to. She's got a sad smile. Riley blinked, caught off guard. Noah scrambled. Lily, sorry, the girl mumbled, shrinking in her seat. It just looks that way. Riley turned to her, crouching gently until they were eye to eye. You're not wrong. Noah watched them, something tightening in his chest. There was something in the way Riley looked at his daughter like she saw something she had lost. And something in the way Lily responded like she recognized the same ache she'd seen in her father, year after year. Later, while Lily sketched quietly at the table, Rayleigh stood by the window, staring at the misty woods. You ever do something kind after being betrayed? The question came out softly, unexpectedly, like it had slipped from somewhere she hadn't meant to reveal. Noah froze. Who said I was betrayed? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. He breathed deep, left at the altar. Flowers, suits, rings, music queued up. The whole thing. She turned to face him. And still, you let me in. Why? He looked at her for a long moment. Because maybe I need to believe that not everyone leaves. The silence that followed was different now. It wasn't heavy. It was open. And in that space between heartbreak and healing, between suspicion and trust, two people who had stopped believing in second chances found themselves quietly choosing to stay. Noah had never thought of himself as someone who pried into other people's pasts. But as he watched Riley walking slowly across the damp backyard that morning, something about her stirred more than curiosity. It stirred recognition. She looked like someone carrying battles that hadn't ended when the war did. Lily was playing in the front porch, making little boats out of fallen leaves. Noah was at the side fence, repairing a section the storm had knocked loose. Riley walked up quietly, picked up the hammer he'd set down, and held it out. You don't have to. I'd rather be doing something. He nodded, then hit here. They worked side by side for nearly an hour. Neither spoke much, but the silence wasn't uncomfortable. There was something oddly grounding in the rhythm of the work, the shared focus, the sense that neither of them needed to explain why they preferred activity over conversation. Noah noticed it, then Riley never looked up at the sky. Every time the wind shifted through the trees, she tensed. Every sudden noise made her shoulders lock, her eyes dart. It wasn't fear. It was instinct. The kind built from surviving things most people never see. How long? He asked quietly, not turning to her. 7 years, she replied after a moment. 3 tours. And now? She paused. Now I'm trying to remember who I was before all of it. If that person's still in there. He stopped hammering, turned toward her. You don't owe me answers, he said. "But if you ever want to talk, there's space here." She looked at him long enough that he felt it. The hesitation. The wall that wanted to hold. The heart that wanted to fall. "I lost a lot," she said. "People, time, trust." Noah nodded slowly. "I lost my faith. In love, in promises, in myself." Her gaze softened. Not pity, not surprise, recognition. Later that evening, after Lily had fallen asleep, curled on the couch with the neighbor's scruffy dog at her feet, Riley sat by the fire, wrapped in one of Noah's old blankets. He handed her a cup of tea and sat across from her. "Why didn't you stay with your family?" he asked gently. "They think I came back." "Wrong." She rotated the cup in her hands, watching the liquid swirl. "My father was military. Taught me soldiers don't cry. That weakness was something we couldn't afford." "Do you believe that?" "I used to. Until I watched a friend bleed out in front of me and had to swallow the scream so I could keep running." Noah dropped his eyes. "You still running?" She didn't answer immediately, just stared into the flames. "Until yesterday. I thought I was." Outside, the sky had begun to clear. A single shaft of light broke through the clouds above the trees. Inside that small, quiet home, two wounded souls sat in stillness, not trying to fix each other, just allowing each other to exist. Sometimes healing doesn't begin with words. Sometimes it begins with a hammer, a quiet morning, and the realization that for the first time in a long time someone stayed. The soft sizzle of melting butter filled the kitchen. Noah flipped pancakes with slow, steady hands, and the scent of warm batter drifted through the house. It was one of those small, quiet mornings that felt heavier somehow fuller, like something important was just beneath the surface. Lily sat cross-legged on the living room floor, sketching in her notebook with focused intensity. Every now and then, Noah glanced at her, not to monitor, but to remind himself that this piece was still real. Riley stepped into the hallway. Same borrowed clothes, hair slightly tousled but dry. Her face looked a little more rested, though still guarded. "Smells good," she said, pausing at the kitchen door. "Pancakes," Noah replied. "My specialty. Or at least the one thing Lily doesn't complain about." She gave a small smile, not just polite, genuine. She sat at the table. Lily looked up, then scooted over and held up her drawing. "It's a house," she said, "but not ours. It's a place I made up, where nobody's scared." Riley stared at the page. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she reached out and traced the outline of the little roof and windows with her finger, gently, like the paper held something sacred. "Sounds like a good place," she murmured. "It is," Lily said matter-of-factly. "You can go there if you want." They ate in relative silence. Not the awkward kind, but the kind where breathing the same air was enough. Riley ate slowly, deliberately. Noah noticed how her eyes stayed on the exits, how every creak of the house made her shoulders twitch. "You don't have to stay on edge," he said softly. "It's just us here." She didn't look at him. "It's automatic, like breathing. I don't even notice I'm doing it until someone points it out. Do you want that to change?" Finally, she met his eyes. And in hers, he didn't just see exhaustion. He saw fear. Not of him, of herself. "I do," she said. "But when you live in war zones long enough, peace starts to feel dangerous." Noah nodded. "I know that feeling. Sometimes the quiet is scarier than the chaos." After breakfast, Lily tugged Riley by the hand. "Come on, I want to show you my secret place." Riley hesitated, her body tensing like someone asked to cross a line they'd drawn long ago. But then she followed. From the kitchen window, Noah watched as Lily led her to the back edge of the property, to a little fort made of sticks and stones and scattered imagination. Riley crouched down, listened. smiled, and not the tight, polite smile from earlier, but something softer, something unguarded. It hit Noah like a breeze through a door he didn't know was open. She was starting to lower her shield. When they came back in, Riley paused at the threshold of the house. Thanks for all of this. He didn't ask what this meant. He knew it was more than pancakes or a safe bed. You still don't trust me, do you? He asked gently. She drew in a breath. It's not you. It's the world. Then she added, barely above a whisper, but in here I can breathe. It wasn't a declaration. It wasn't surrender. It was a signal. A barrier had shifted, and sometimes all someone needs is a place where they can finally breathe. The afternoon settled into a strange kind of quiet. Not the peaceful stillness that had warmed the house that morning, but something heavier like the air itself was bracing for impact. Riley sat on the porch, staring out at the gray horizon. Lily played at her feet, drawing invisible lines in the dirt with a stick. Noah was out back splitting wood, the rhythmic thud of the axe, his way of thinking without words. Then it came. 3 knocks, sharp, measured. Riley stood instantly. Her body reacted before her mind had time to catch up. Shoulders squared, breath shortened. Eyes scanned the door like they expected something or someone unwelcome. Noah rounded the corner, wiping his hands on his shirt. Lily went still, sensing the shift. He opened the door slowly. Standing outside was a man in a rumpled uniform, mid-50s, posture stiff and eyes serious. Good afternoon. I'm Captain Darrell Stone. I'm looking for a woman named Riley West. Noah glanced behind him. She's here. Riley had already stepped forward. Her stance was controlled, but her eyes told another story, like she already knew why he had come. I need a word, the captain said. Privately. She didn't reply at first. Then she grabbed a jacket from the hook, slid it on, and stepped outside with him. Lily tugged at Noah's arm. Who is that man? I don't know, sweetheart, but I think he's from her past. Outside, they spoke in low voices. Riley barely moved as she listened, but the tension in her face deepened. Halfway through, she walked away, down toward the edge of the yard, and stood still rigid, like the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. When she came back inside, her eyes were glassy, but her face cold. I have to deal with something, she said. It might take some time. Noah met her gaze. You're leaving? She paused. I don't know yet. Lily stepped forward, holding something in her hands. If you go, take my drawing, so you don't forget the safe place. Riley knelt down and took the paper, carefully, like it was something fragile. Her fingers lingered on the page. She looked at Noah. I never expected to find this here. I never thought I'd feel this again. He took a step closer. Then why run from it? Because sometimes the thing you want the most is also the thing that scares you the most. And with that, she stepped through the door. Noah didn't stop her, not out of fear, not out of pride, but because he understood something. If she came back, it wouldn't be from fear. It would be from choice. And that would change everything. The silence after Riley left was deafening. Noah moved through the days on autopilot, cooking meals he barely touched, keeping the house tidy, all while a quiet emptiness hung in the corners of every room. Lily, unusually quiet, kept Riley's drawing on the mantel as if guarding something sacred. No one said it aloud, but they both felt that something had shifted. On the 5th day, just when resignation had begun to settle in like dust, a new knock came. This one wasn't sharp or decisive. It was uncertain. Noah opened the door. It was her. Riley looked different. Still tired, still worn, but there was something in her eyes now that hadn't been there before. Resolve. Can I come in? He stepped aside without a word. She entered slowly, like someone re-entering a space they thought they'd never see again. She sat in the same armchair where she'd once sipped tea. But this time, there was no armor. He came to tell me that a former teammate passed away and left a letter with my name on it. Noah sat across from her, silent but listening. He was the only one who knew what happened during my first deployment, the only one who saw it. She took a breath, heavy with memory. There were civilians. A tactical mistake. I gave the order that saved our unit, but it cost the lives of an entire family. No one ever knew, except him. The words landed like stones in water. I've carried the name Riley West ever since. It's not the name I was born with. I changed everything after that. Noah met her eyes. Why? Because I didn't want to be the woman who let those children die. I needed to be someone else, strong, untouchable, a soldier. She looked at him again, voice softer now. But here, being called Riley didn't hurt. For the first time, it didn't feel like a lie. Lily appeared in the doorway, holding something in her hands. The drawing. You forgot this, she said. Riley took the paper carefully, like it might break. I didn't forget, she whispered. I just didn't know if it was still mine. Noah spoke then, gently but firmly. You don't have to erase who you were. You just have to stop letting it decide who you're going to be. Riley nodded, eyes wet. Then maybe it's time to stop running. And in that gray afternoon, without ceremony or promise, she stayed. Not as a guest, but as someone willing at last to be seen, scars and all. It was a few days after Riley returned that Lily asked. The house already felt different, lighter, warmer not in temperature, but in atmosphere. Peace had found its way into the cracks, slowly. Riley didn't talk much, but she no longer hid. She helped in the garden, washed dishes with Lily, read quietly by the fire, and sometimes she just stared out the window like someone finally letting themselves stay still. That morning, Noah was washing the truck outside. Riley and Lily sat on the porch steps, sketching together. It was the first time Riley had picked up a pencil since she arrived. Then Lily, without warning, asked, "Are you going to be our family now?" Riley's pencil froze in mid-stroke. For a moment, the world stopped spinning. Noah heard it from outside, and froze too. Riley looked at Lily, not a child asking out of curiosity, but one asking with hope. The kind of hope that only children have, pure, brave, unfiltered. She didn't understand the full weight of what she was offering, but she felt its meaning all the same. Riley swallowed. I've never really been part of a family. Not like this, Lily smiled, but we don't have to match. We just have to stay. Riley looked over at Noah, who stood at the doorway watching quietly. No pressure, no expectation, just presence. She turned back to Lily. Can I try? The little girl launched herself into Riley's arms, and somehow that was enough. And in truth, it was. Later that evening, Riley found Noah in the garden. She undoes me, she said with a tired smile. She does that, he replied. You think it's crazy? Me? Staying? He stepped closer. No big speeches, no dramatics. I think when life beats you down so badly, you forget who you are. And a child still calls you family, you listen. And she did. That evening, beneath a sky just beginning to open up, there were no promises, no declarations, just something rarer, a shared choice. It was an ordinary day. No storms, no knocks. Just a clear sky, sunlight slipping through the trees, and the sound of birds blending with Lily's laughter in the yard. Riley sat on the back steps, a cup in her hands. She watched Noah tending the garden while Lily dashed between branches, barefoot and free. And for the first time, she didn't feel like an outsider in the scene. She wasn't passing through. She belonged. "Wanna help?" Noah called, tossing her a pair of gloves. She caught them, walked over, and knelt beside him, pulling weeds carefully from the soil. "Gardening," she muttered. "Never saw myself with my hands in the dirt." "Neither did I," Noah said. "But there's something good about watching things grow." She nodded. "Grow without fear." Later, Lily declared a picnic. "It's tradition," she said, "for good days. They don't last forever, but we remember them when things get hard." Riley helped spread the blanket. They packed sandwiches, juice, fruit. Noah brought out an old digital camera. "Family photo," he joked. "For the archives." Riley hesitated, but Lily ran up, grabbed her hand, and pulled her close, grinning wide. Riley closed her eyes for a second, breathed, and smiled. Not the guarded kind, not the practiced one. A smile born of stillness, of presence, of choosing to be whole in that moment. Later, when they looked at the photo, Noah held up the screen. "Look at that," he said. "You're smiling." "I smile," she said, raising an eyebrow. "Not like this." She studied the image for a long time. "I haven't seen that woman in years." Noah replied softly. "She never left. She was just quiet, waiting for you to come back." And on that ordinary day with no promises, no big moments, she did. Not as a soldier, not as someone running, but as a woman who finally let the outside world feel like home. The house was quiet that night. Lily had fallen asleep with a book resting on her chest, and Noah was going around, gently closing the windows. Riley stood at the sink, washing dishes in slow, unhurried movements. The sound of water, the clink of silverware, the soft rustle of curtains, it all felt peaceful. And that's when Noah noticed. She was humming softly, barely audible. A simple melody, wordless, floating in the air like something that had been trapped for years and finally found its way out. He stepped closer, quietly. "You sing?" Riley froze, caught off guard by his voice. Then she chuckled, shyly. "I used to." "Before? Before the war? Before everything? When I still believed my voice could touch someone." Noah leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "It still can." Riley dried her hands. Sat at the table. Something in her eyes was trembling like a truth on the verge of breathing. "When I was a kid," she said, "my mom used to say my voice was my superpower. But after she died, and after the military, singing became dangerous because it made me feel." She met his eyes, and feeling was what I feared most. Noah nodded silently. "Today was the first time in years I wasn't afraid to feel something good," she whispered. "Afraid to like it, afraid to lose it." Then, without warning, she began to sing. Soft, unforced, a lullaby from long ago. Her voice trembled, but it was beautiful, fragile, human. Noah didn't say a word. He just listened. And in that small kitchen, with the world asleep around them, she heard herself for the first time in a very long time. Her voice wasn't a weapon anymore. It was a bridge between who she had been and who she was finally ready to become. Autumn had arrived quietly, painting the trees around the house in shades of gold and rust. The mornings grew colder, the nights longer, and laughter in the yard had become part of the daily rhythm. Riley no longer woke up startled. She no longer flinched at sudden noises. She smiled more, slept better, and most importantly, she stayed. Noah noticed it all in silence. He didn't push, but he felt every change. The way she touched Lily's shoulder, the way she laughed with her whole face, the way she ran her hand along the leaves in the garden, like saying thank you without words. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed and the fire crackled softly in the hearth, Noah brought 2 mugs of tea and sat beside Riley on the couch. She had a blanket over her feet, and her eyes fixed on the flames. "Have you gotten used to being here?" he asked. She turned to him, voice steady. "No. I've gotten used to not being afraid of being here." He smiled. "That's different. It's everything." She turned fully to him then, meeting his gaze. "Noah, what did you feel when she left you at the altar?" He inhaled slowly. "Anger, shame, emptiness, but mostly fear that I'd never be enough for anyone again." She swallowed. "And now?" He took a quiet moment before answering. "Now I know that being enough isn't about being perfect. It's about being present, staying, reaching out, letting someone reach back." She nodded. There were tears in her eyes, but not pain, just emotion. "I still have fears," she said, "but they don't scream anymore." He reached out. She took his hand. And right there, with no declarations, no fanfare, they chose each other. Outside, the leaves fell gently. Inside, for the first time in a long time, love wasn't something to fear. It was something to come home to. It didn't happen in a single moment. There was no grand gesture, no dramatic kiss in the rain, no cinematic ending. Just quiet mornings, warm meals, shared chores, and slow healing stitched into everyday life. But sometimes, the most extraordinary stories are the ones that never tried to be. Riley never planned to stay. Noah never thought he'd open his heart again. And Lily, she just wanted someone to come back for dinner. But what they built step by uncertain step was something deeper than survival. It was family. The kind made not from blood or vows, but from presence, trust, and the choice to stay even when it's hard. Rayleigh found more than shelter in that house. She found the courage to forgive herself, to sing again, to sleep without armor, to smile without fear. Noah didn't fix her, and she didn't fill the hole left in him. They simply stood beside each other long enough for something new to grow. And Lily? She got what every child hopes for, but few know how to name a safe place where love didn't leave. So if you're carrying pain, if you've buried your voice, if love feels too dangerous to trust again, let this story remind you, sometimes life knocks not to break you, but to bring in someone who is also just waiting for a door to open.